Okay, now today we will going to discuss the last topic of this chapter, that is lymphatic system. We have already discussed about the human heart and also we have discussed about the component of blood. That means in our human circulatory system we have two types of system, blood vascular system and the lymphatic system. In blood vascular system we have discussed about the component of blood, that means we have plasma and blood cells. And in blood cell we have discussed about RBC, WBC, platelet, as well as we have also studied about blood clotting factors, blood clotting processes, blood groups, and also we have discussed the blood vessels, that is arteries and veins, and structure and the working of heart. Now we will going to discuss another system, circulatory system, which is known as lymphatic system, which is mainly found in we vertebrates or we human beings. Now what is this lymphatic system? Like the circulatory like in blood vascular system, we have read about three components, that is blood, blood vessels and heart. Similarly, in this lymphatic system also, this consists of three components: lymph vessels, and lymph nodes. Now what are these components? What is lymph vessel, and what is lymph node? First most important thing is need to understand is lymph, because we all know or we knew all about blood, because blood carries all the important nutrients, excretory waste form, gases, hormone, enzyme and different other material from one place to another place. But what then does lymph do? One thing is also need to consider that this lymphatic system runs parallel with the blood vascular system. You can say that it runs parallel with blood vascular system. That means we have certain important role of lymph also. Now what is all about this lymph? As we have understood or studied that blood is red in color because of the presence of hemoglobin pigment inside the RBC cell. But here the lymph which flows is colorless, or you can also say the pale yellow, similar to blood plasma. So you can also consider that this lymph having osmotic concentration equivalent or more similar to that of blood plasma, but it do not have RBC, the basic thing, it do not have RBC as well as plasma proteins. The two major things do not found in this lymph, RBC and the plasma proteins. Then how does lymph appear, from where it arises, from where it originates? Let's discuss. Now we all know about our heart. Since by heart or through heart we releases different blood vessels, and these blood vessels are mainly, you can say, arteries. For example, if these have arteries, because it carries oxygenated blood, and to where it carries? It carries to our tissue site having cells. Now, since in the tissues this oxygenated blood mainly transferred and it releases the CO2, which transfer through veins, and these veins also get mixed to the heart, which carries deoxygenated blood, that means the blood having carbon dioxide. Now, basically our more concern is about lymph. Now, what is this lymph? As we all know, whenever the artery enters into this tissue, these artery divides into various branches further, and these branches are known as capillaries. Fine. That means if one particular tube is further dividing into different branches, then the wall of those tubes gets more and more thinner, and these are actually known as arterioles. These are the branches of arteries known as arterioles. Similarly, these veins, when it enters and divides into different branches, so the same thing happens with the veins, that the walls of these branches of veins gets more and more thinner, and these are known as vanules. Collectively, these are known as capillaries, the wall of which is very thinner as compared to arteries and veins. Now, through artery, the pressure, that means the blood which is entering into these capillary, it is entering with high pressure. Due to this high pressure which is entering, the pressure is so much high in these arterioles that most amount of the blood gets leaked out. It gets leaked out in these tissue fluid. So when this leak out, because of the high pressure in the wall of arteries, the few amount of blood, you can say some amount of blood gets leaked out in between these tissue, in between the cells, that means in the extracellular fluid. That means you can say certain amount of blood get mixed up with the tissue, or you can say the extracellular fluid. Now, this amount of blood which is coming out of the arterioles, this blood do not contain RBC and plasma protein, because they are very macromolecule in nature. Their size is large, so they don't come out of the wall. But all the substances which is micro in size and which are dissolvable, soluble, they are easily coming out of the blood capillaries and get mixed with the extracellular fluid. Now, this thing becomes, actually the fluid is known as lymph. But since these lymph is having certain important nutrient substances also, or certain other substances also, which need to be again get mixed with the blood. So these component of blood or certain amount of blood which has been leaked out from these arteriole, they converted into the lymph, and this lymph flows in on another vessel known as lymph vessel. So you can say here another capillaries, or you can say another tube runs, these another tubes run along with these capillaries or along with the blood vessels, and these vessels actually get mixed with the arterioles and the veins. Fine. So here whatever the blood is leaking out, here the blood is leaking out, amount of blood which is leaking out, it get mixed up or enters into the lymph vessel, and this vessel is known as lymph vessel. This vessel is actually known as lymph vessel, and the vessel contain those blood plasma equivalent, that means the blood which has been leaked out from these blood vessels. but do not contain RBC. The color of lymph is actually pale yellow or colorless, you can consider. So this lymph vessel is running parallel with the arteries or veins, you can say, or capillaries. They are running parallel with the blood vascular system. But what we are observing here, that these lymph vessels are originating at the tissue level and they are ending up to at the tissue level only. That means these lymph vessels is not arising from heart and not ending into the heart. From where they are arising? They are arising from a particular point of arteries only, and it is again getting mixed with the veins. So what is the importance of this lymph is, what is happening here, whatever the blood component or blood amount which is leaking out through the capillaries due to its wall, due to thin wall and due to high pressure of movement of blood. So whatever the amount of blood is leaked out, it is again get mixed up, or it is again get transferred into the lymph vessel in the form of lymph, and this lymph is again get mixed up with the veins, so that the any nutritive substances or any gaseous substance or any excretory waste form get again mixed up with the veins, and it goes back to the heart, so that heart again pumps the same amount of nutrient or amount of excretory form or anything which has been lost or which has been leaked out through these capillaries and which has been converted into the lymph. So the lymph again get back to the veins, and the veins will then carry those component of blood again and the substances of blood back to the heart, and heart pumps it again. Again the things happen and again it get mixed up. So in this manner the lymph is transferring the substances which has been leaked out from the blood. This lymph is returning back them to the blood vessels, or you can say it returning back to the blood. Now these are the vessels which is known as lymph vessel. So we have discussed about lymph and also the lymph vessels. That means you can say the lymph is a fluid which formed only from the blood component only, but it do not contain RBC and also the plasma protein, but it may contain various important substances. Maybe it is nutrient, maybe it is gaseous substances, maybe it has excretory waste form or hormone, mineral, vitamin. So it need to return back to the blood. That is why this blood which has been leaked out from these capillary, it get mixed up again, or it get returned to the lymph vessel in the form of lymph, and this lymph again carries it to the blood. Now vessels are similar to that of blood vessels only, but only thing, the difference from the blood vessel is this lymph vessel originate from the tissue level and it ends up at the tissue level. That means it originates from this branch of artery and it ends up to the veins only. It does not originate from heart and does not end up at the heart. So it only present, this lymphatic system present only at the tissue level. Now this lymph vessels basically present in a particular site, in a particular area. For example, if we talk about the limbs, like in limbs we have so many lymph vessels. So these lymph vessels, when they originate at the tissue level, so there are so many tissues, there are so many organs in a particular area, so many muscle cells. So they all the lymph vessel which originate at the tissue level, they forms or they bunch together at a particular site and they form node known as lymph node. These lymph nodes are the cluster or cluster of lymph vessel. These lymph node are cluster or lymph vessels. So in these lymph node, what is transferring? Basically the lymph is transferring to the lymph node. So lymph node acts like a lymphoid organ, you can say. It's a tissue also, you can say. So it must contain all types of WBC. That means you can say it must contain all types of lymphocytes. Fine. So this lymph node is having WBC. So it helps in again immune action. if any bacteria or pathogen enters into the lymph, so lymph do contain WBC or immune cells to act upon it and to remove it from the body. So lymph nodes are present in various part of the body. For example, I can say there are so many lymph nodes present in our limbs, in forelimbs and hind limb, as well as in our neck region also we have so many lymph nodes. These are the cluster of lymph vessels which are collected, or you can say when so many lymph vessels in that particular area get mixed up or arranged at a particular point, then it forms a node like structure known as lymph node. So lymph node is having lymph which is coming from all the lymph vessel, and this lymph node always which is collecting the or which is getting lymph, this lymph do contain or must contain different type of immune cells. WBC helps in attacking against all kind of pathogen if enter in the lymph. Fine. For example, in case of the disease elephantiasis disease, here the pathogen of this disease actually attacks only the lymph system. So here this lymph system when it attacks, so it basically it results in swelling of the limbs of our legs. Fine. So its pathogen is surviving in the lymph. So lymph if contain any pathogen, so it do also contain certain kind of immune cells to act on any pathogen. Now this lymph nodes act like a organ only to collect lymph. Now how this lymph system or lymphatic system helps us? Basically there are so many important role of lymphatic system. The most important role is functions of lymphatic system. The most important, it provides immunity to body in case of if pathogen enters in lymph. Fine. So this is the most important function of lymphatic system and the lymph. Secondly, here fats are absorbed. Now let's explain it. Basically, what do you mean by fats? Fats are the molecules, that means these are the lipids having the monomer unit as fatty acids and glycerol. Through the process of digestion, we need to emulsify the fats first, and the emulsification of fats takes place by the action of bile juice through bile salt. Basically fats are very oily nature, they are basically hydrophobic compound. So in order to act enzymes on them, fats first need to emulsify. After emulsification of fats, there are certain enzymes present in our digestive juices, that is lipase, which acts on the fats and it converts it into fatty acids and glycerol. Now digested fats now need to absorb. So absorption of fats is also very difficult through blood vessels, because the membrane of blood vessel cannot absorb the fats due to, again, its hydrophobic nature. So there are lymph vessels. Basically our lymph vessel is specialized to absorb fats only. So whatever fats we are getting, the digested fats we are getting at the organ site or tissue site, from there these lymph vessel only is going to absorb fats from those cells of, that is digestive cells, or you can say the digestive systems. There only fats are absorbed by the lymph vessel, and that specialized lymph vessel in the digestive system is known as lacteals. So here fats are absorbed from digestive organs through lymph vessel called as lacteals. So these lacteals are the specialized lymph vessel which helps in the absorption of fat. Without lymph vessel, fat's absorption would be very difficult in our human body. Third most important role is it helps to return all nutrients back to blood. What does it mean? That we have already discussed that certain amount of blood which has been leaked out of these capillaries, and this blood which has been leaked out, it actually enters into lymph vessel in the form of lymph. So whatever the nutrient, whatever the important substances has been leaked out from the blood, it mixed again with the lymph. That means it back to the lymph, and this lymph return them again to the blood. So it is helping in transferring or returning all the nutrient from lymph or which has been leaked out of the blood back again to the blood vessels. So these are the important functions of lymphatic system. That means we can also say this lymphatic system is also known as middleman of body, because this lymphatic system or lymph vessel present in between the tissue and blood vessels. So whatever the substance, if transferred from blood vessel to the tissues or cells, it also has to cross through these lymph vessels, because the substances leaked out from the blood vessel, and those substances will then transfer to the lymph vessel in the form of lymph, and this lymph again return those nutrient or substances back to the blood vessel or to the blood. Fine. So in this manner we can say it is the middleman of the blood. So this is all about the lymphatic system. Here we have discussed that lymphatic system consists of lymph, lymph vessel and lymph node. Lymph is actually nothing. It is only the blood part which has been leaked out of the capillaries due to high pressure on the wall of capillaries. Then the leaked part of that blood which has been accumulated in between the tissues or cell is actually converted in the form of lymph only. This lymph flows inside a closed vessel known as lymph vessel, which we have discussed that lymph vessel originate again at the tissue site and it ends up at the tissue site. That means you can say it originates from arteries and it ends up at the veins only. Then we have discussed that all these lymph vessel runs parallel with the blood vascular or blood vessel only, but it runs parallel with the blood vessel only up to tissue site. And when the lymph vessels of different organ or different tissue in a particular area get combined, then they form a cluster which is known as lymph node. And this lymph node having accumulated amount of lymph from a particular area, and this lymph node must contain all different type of WBC, that means the soldiers of the body which provide protection or immune action against certain kind of pathogen. So the most important role of lymphatic system are it provides immunity, fats absorption, as well as it helps to return different nutrients back to the blood which has been leaked out of the blood in the form of lymph. Thank you. This is all about this chapter transportation. Now in the next lecture we will going to start a new topic, that is excretion.